Hey everybody, hopefully all of you are doing well. Today we're going to be grilling up a premium ribeye steak and serving it up with some oven roasted vegetables and herbs. You can definitely have a steakhouse worthy meal right at your own table. Let's get into it. For the exact measurements to this recipe and others, be sure and check out gdseasoning.com. The link is below in the description. Let's start by cutting up our fresh veggies. We have some red potatoes, a whole onion, some fresh carrots, broccoli flour, Brussels sprouts, and some Swiss chard. You do not necessarily have to use the same vegetables I am, but this is just what looked good in the store that particular day, but you can switch it up the way you like. Just make sure when you cut and trim the vegetables that you cut them up in very large pieces because they're going to be roasting in the oven for about 40 minutes. When it comes to handling the Brussels sprouts, I know we haven't handled Brussels sprouts a lot on this channel, but they are absolutely delicious. All you have to do is take the outer leaves off of the bottom, and then you're just going to give it a small trim at the base where the root is. And you're just going to cut it in half. That's all you have to do. And of course, all these vegetables have been rinsed and cleaned before we started. Here's the Swiss chard. I'm just going to stack the leaves up, and then I'm going to roll them into a tight roll, almost like a cigar. And then I'm just going to give them some big chops. The Swiss chard is going to be added later to the vegetable mix, and I'll show you how to do that. Now I'm going to add some fresh herbs. I have some fresh rosemary and fresh thyme. If any other herbs that you like that happen to be available, go ahead and use those. And you can sprinkle them over to your own taste. I also have some chopped garlic that I'm going to sprinkle over, about 3 to 4 cloves, depending on how much garlic you want. The olive oil that I'm going to be drizzling over the vegetables is a smoked olive oil that I talked about in one of my last videos, and I bought it at Trader Joe's. This olive oil was so good, and it added a really good depth of flavor, and I'm glad that I purchased it. Now I'm kind of into making my own. So if you can't find it in the area where you live, you can make your own. Just get your favorite olive oil and your favorite liquid smoke and add a few drops to it to your taste. There's no exact measurement. It's just all to your taste. The seasoning for the vegetables and the steak is actually going to be Grand Diamond all-purpose seasoning plus some chipotle powder and about a half a teaspoon of salt. You can use any seasoning you want. You can make it spicy. You can make it non-spicy. This is the time to reach up in that cabinet and use some of those spices that you really love to use because the same seasoning is going to be used on the vegetables and the steak. So now I'm just going to make sure all of my vegetables are coated well with the smoked olive oil and all of the seasoning. And we're going to roast this on a high temperature of 400 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes. About halfway through the cooking time, we're going to go ahead and give everything a nice turn with a spatula, just to make sure the vegetables are roasting evenly. At this point, 20 minutes has passed, and I'm just going to give everything a nice turn. The one thing I do want you guys to notice is that the vegetables are single layered on the pan. You don't want to roast too many vegetables on a pan because if they're stacked and touching each other too much, they're just going to steam. So you want to make sure that they are single layered on the pan. Next, we're going to take this beautiful ribeye steak. And remember, you don't have to do just one. You can do multiple steaks. This recipe is very open-ended. I'm going to rub it down in the same smoked olive oil and rub it with the same seasonings that we used on the vegetables. Just press that in on both sides. I have my cast iron grill preheated over medium to medium high heat because I knew I was going to cook my steak about 9 to 10 minutes on each side. And in the meantime, while it was on its first side, I went ahead and took my Swiss chard and sprinkled it over those vegetables during the last 10 minutes of the cooking time. Just give those a stir, and we're going to let that heat go ahead and wilt the Swiss chard. Now you can drizzle a little bit of that olive oil over the greens before you add them to the vegetables. I just chose to let them pick up the residual oil that's in the pan, and they came out with a little bit of texture. They were really good. I'm just going to go ahead and turn over my steak. To get those crosshatch marks on a steak and my grates go left to right, I had to position the steak at 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock. If your grill grates go up and down, you can do the 10 and 2, and that'll get you your crosshatch marks. I ended up cooking my steak about 9 minutes on each side because I like it medium well. This is your steak. Do it how you want to do it. What I like to do at some point is take the meat off of the grill and I wrap it in foil. That way it can rest and continue to cook just a little bit more. The vegetables are done. They look absolutely gorgeous. And they were really good. They were smoky. You had your seasoning. And all I did was sprinkle some fresh basil over the top. Delicious. Once the steak is rested, I'm just going to go ahead and plate it up. Look at the juices running off of that steak. Now, I like the juices on my steaks to run clear. That means I like it to be closer to being more done. But don't worry, if you like your steak rare, and I mean rare to where it's closer to being more alive than it is dead, that's the way I would make it for you. But I'm going to serve it with a whole head of roasted garlic and some compound butter. We've made compound butter before that has the same herbs mixed in that butter. I'm just going to take that roasted garlic and I'm just going to spread it all over the steak. See, that's the way you eat a steak at a steakhouse. Don't that look good? And it smelled awesome. The smokiness from the olive oil, the spiciness from the chipotle powder, along with all of the other seasonings that we rubbed all over the steak. And when you roast garlic, garlic tends to get a little sweeter. And what you do is you just rub a little bit on each bite, and that's some good eating. And don't forget about those roasted vegetables that we gave so much TLC to. Thank you guys so much for joining me. You know I appreciate it when you come cook with me and hang out. Don't forget this recipe and others can be found at gdseasoning.com. And I'll see you guys next time.